The 14th year of Chenghua. Chapter 23. Are you still human? A hanged corpse did not look the same as that of a strangled corpse, as intersecting strangulation marks would appear on the back of the neck of the strangulation victims. In addition to that, anyone getting strangled was certain to put up a violent fight prior to their death. Even if there was no scratch marks from fingernails on the neck, there ought to be bumps and bruises from such struggles on the victim's body. This fact had long been detailed in the northern Song dynasty's collected cases of rectified injustice. Even for a coroner of an average skill level, it still wasn't difficult to distinguish between suicide and strangulation. All he needed to do was to look at the injury. Tang Fan was not surprised by this result because in his opinion, the Li family's Lady Zhang had been a kind person that was harmless by nature. People of such kind of character was generally patient and obedient. They follow the teachings of the worldly Confucian etiquette as a norm and abide by them subconsciously. Before he brought that pretty woman back, Li Man already had 2 concubines. Even if she was angry and heartbroken about a new concubine, it was not possible for someone like her to commit suicide because of it. If her personality was a bit fierce or extreme, it would have been a possibility. Or, if she was anything like Lady Sun, then she would have come after her husband instead. That's why the probability that she had committed suicide was very unlikely. Since it was not a suicide, the murderer needed to be found and those in the Li family were no longer in charge of this matter. Tang Fan lived next door to the Li residence and it only made sense that he would be the one who would go and take a look at the proceedings. This time however, he didn't go alone like he did in the morning. He brought Lao Wang with him as well as Inspector Du Zhang and several bureau bailiffs who proceeded ahead of him. Lady Zhang's body was laid down in the middle of the Li family hall. The deputy and the registrar from the Wanping County was present as well together with the Wanping County's own coroner. Wanping County served directly under the Shuntian prefecture so they knew of Tang Fan. Upon seeing him arrived, the both uniformly greeted him with bows. Tang Fan said, "No need to stand on ceremonies. What have you learned so far?" The Wanping County deputy reported, "The members of the Li family all said that they did not see any suspicious persons entering their madam's room last night. There were only the 2 maids who kept watch all night. We've already arrested them. Would you like to question them, sir?" "Where are they?" Tang Fan asked. The Wanping County deputy asked someone to bring the 2 maids, Ah Chun and Ah Xia. They were both weak women who were already being closely watched so there was no need to tie them up. They both simply looked downcast and a lot worse than they had been in the morning. The Wanping County deputy gave a brief account of his own interrogation with them but Tang Fan had already asked the same question earlier and therefore, this venue did not yield anything new. Li Man had watched for some time until finally he couldn't resist it anymore and stepped forward. "Master Tang, you showing off your official authority like this has made a mess of my family. Aren't you quite satisfied yet?" he said furiously. "Since you couldn't find anything, why not just let us complete my wife's funeral arrangements so that she can be at peace sooner?" "Cease being rude," the Wanping County deputy scolded him. "Now that this is a murder case, it's no longer a private family matter. The authorities will be assuming control over Lady Zhang's corpse until the whole truth is out." Li Man sneered and said, "My wife died horribly and I'm grieving immensely and yet you are preventing us from arranging my wife's funeral. This is bullying of the Li family. My grandfather had once been a 3rd-rank government official and a couple of his old friends are still in the court. If I file a complaint because of this, all of you will be suffering the responsibility for this." The Wanping County deputy and registrar were both upset that a merchant had dared to threaten them, but they were not sure whether Li Man's words were true or not. Therefore, they both looked over at Tang Fan. After all, Tang Fan was the highest-ranking official among the 3, and naturally he was the only one who had to take the lead. Tang Fan chuckled and said, "I'm not sure who are those old friends that Master Li speak of. Why don't you name them? Maybe this official knows them, too." Li Man paused, then softened his tone into a pleading one, "Master Tang, this commoner isn't intentionally trying to make a scene. It's simply that the weather is hot right now and keeping the body won't be easy. My wife has been taking care of the household for me for decades, without taking credit for her hard work. Your investigation is your business and has nothing to do with me. I just wanted her to be at peace soon lest she is refused in the 9 springs of the underworld because of this grievance. The dead has to be respected, that's the proper thing. Surely, you can understand that." Before Tang Fan could reply, he continued, "This commoner has a private information that he wishes to share. Master Tang, can you please take a step to the side with me for a private talk?" Li Man looked at Tang Fan with ardent hope until he nodded and said, "All right, lead the way." Li Man took Tang Fan to the inner room next door and knelt down without saying another word. "I actually don't have any private information to share. I only want to present a written plea. Master Tang, please look it over." He presented the folded paper with both of his hands. Tang Fan took it, but it felt heavy in his hand. When he opened it up to take a look, he saw that pressed between the layers of white paper were dozens of Huatong issued silver bank notes, some were for 100 taels, some for 50. They overall totaled to at least somewhere around 2,000 taels. It had to be known that in this era, 1 tael of silver could buy 2 or more 100 kilograms rice. 2,000 taels was therefore equivalent to being able to buy over 4,100 kilograms rice, while a true second-rank officials, like the ministers of the 6 ministries, only got 6,100 kilograms rice each month. As there were poor people, there would of course be rich people. For a successful businessman like Li Man, 2,000 tael was not an unaffordable amount. When Feng Qingze wanted to redeem herself before, she had to ask for 5,000 taels, which was already an unreasonable amount for a brothel madam to ask. However, in the eyes of the truly rich, 5,000 tael was nothing but a trifle. However, to a low-salaried government official, 2,000 tael was already a huge amount of money. Tang Fan took the silver note and smiled, "Are you trying to bribe me? How could I dare?" Li Man was busy arching his hand. "I heard Lao Li say that the Li family has been receiving your care for many years. This humble one is simply thankful to Master Tang and had been wanting to compensate you. This is a small token of my appreciation and to convey my respect. I hope that you would accept it." Tang Fan weighed the notes in his hand and asked, "Are you hoping this case won't go any further?" Li Man smiled bitterly and said, "I am also heartbroken by the death of my wife. If Master Tang must continue with the investigation, I wouldn't dare obstruct you. I merely hope that our family would be left at peace for a few days. If authorities kept coming over every now and then, it's not just the funeral that would not get done, but all the servant will likely get anxious and would not be of mind to work." Tang Fan nodded, put the banknote in his lapels and said, "I understand your intent." With that, he turned and left. When Li Man saw that he had accepted the money, he knew that the matter would be done with. He gladly followed right after him. When the two reached the main hall, the Wanping County Deputy and Registrar both greeted Tang Fan and asked for his opinion. "Sir, should we continue with the investigation or not?" "Of course we will continue with the investigation, why would we stop?" Tang Fan oddly answered contrarily. "The murderer is even present. Are you two planning on letting the killer get away with this?" Both the Wanping County Deputy and Registrar were shocked. "Where is the real killer?" Tang Fan pointed at Li Man and said, "Isn't it him?" Before Li Man could speak, Tang Fan shouted an order, "Men, go and tie him up." Tang Fan himself brought people from the Shuntian prefecture and didn't need to bother the people from the Wanping County. Lao Wang and the other bailiff from the Shuntian prefecture stepped forward, yanked Li Man's hands back, and tied the rope around him firmly. "You! How dare you wrongfully accuse a good man? How could you treat human lives as if they were common grass? I'll report you! I'll report you!" Li Man didn't expect that Tang Fan would make and turn about face too soon as he struggled against his bindings. Tang Fan raised his eyebrows and asked, I wrongfully accused a good man? I don't think so. How could you call yourself a good man after the injustices you've done to your own wife? You don't agree? Fine, just keep calm and don't get impatient. I will lay everything out, one after another. He turned his head and asked Ah Chun, do you still have the jade earrings that I handed to you earlier? Ah Chun replied, yes, I put it back in the madam's dressing case. Tang Fan ordered, you go get it. Ah Chun stood up and left. She brought the dressing case over when she came back. It's in the last compartment, Master Tang. Tang Fan opened the last compartment and found the lotus jade earring inside. He gestured for Ah Chun to put down the case and took out an identical earring from his lapels. Ah Chun exclaimed, Master Tang has found the other one. Tang Fan nodded, holding the jade earrings high. I found the other earring under the bed in the madam's room. On any normal day before, did you ever play and chase each other around the madam's room? Ah Chun replied, of course not. Though madam is kind-hearted, appropriate decorum should be observed between a mistress and a servant. There are rules to be followed. We wouldn't be so impudent. Tang Fan asked again, then does the madam have a habit of dancing around or sleepwalk at night after she went to bed? That's even less possible, Ah Chun said. The madam was a very calm sleeper. Sometimes, she wouldn't even turn in her sleep for the whole night. Tang Fan said, let me ask you again. You said earlier that in the middle of the night, you had gone into the outer room to shut the window close, didn't you? I did. Did you enter the inner room then? No, I only shut the outer window close. Asya was the one who went inside the inner room to check. Tang Fan then turned to Asya and asked, did you see anything unusual when you went inside? Asya replied, no, no. At that time, the madam's back had been turned to me and she was covered with quilt. She seemed to be sleeping very heavily, so I did not go near for a closer look for fear of waking her up. Tang Fan asked, did you ever look under the bed? Asya shook her head and said, the bed is covered with sheets. It's usually only lifted to clean the bottom of the bed when we're tidying the room. Tang Fan then stated, if a woman is sleeping in her own bedroom and she looks very calm, how can she accidentally leave her one earring by her pillow and drop the other below the bed for no reason at all? There are only two explanations for this. The madam didn't accidentally drop the earrings at all. It got flung off from her ears when she was violently struggling while she was being strangled. It fell to the floor and was unintentionally kicked under the bed by the killer. Ah Chun turned pale and asked, could it be, that the murderer then was under the bed? Tang Fan replied, no, when you went in to close the window, the murderer had already jumped out of the window. If I'm not mistaken, you only had the mind to look at a distance by the window and didn't examine the bushes below it. Ah Chun said, yes, yes. At that time, I took a look in the garden and when I heard the cat meowing, I thought it was because I had forgotten to close the window earlier and the wild cat had come in. My wife and I were married for decades. Li Man suddenly started shouting. Our relationship was harmonious and affectionate. She was virtuous and kind. Why would I want to kill her? You subpar official. You are concluding that I am the murderer based on these false speculations. I'm definitely going to report this to the Ministry of Justice and the Court of the Judicial Review so they can right this wrong. You won't be terrorizing anyone from our Li family anymore. You've indeed been married for decades and had once been affectionate to one another, but because things change with times, those strong feelings have become weak. Tang Fan said mildly. Then you began to regret that you had given up all your family's money for her family's sake, abandoned a possible official career when you gave up taking the imperial examinations and married a wife who couldn't give you children. So, you wanted to divorce her and get yourself a new wife, but because the Zhang family have government officials as relatives, You were afraid that divorcing her would create enmity between yourself and the Zhang family. Egged on by a new and pretty concubine, an evil thought came to your mind and you end up acting on it. Isn't that right? Li Man laughed coldly and said, "No. Of course not. You slanderer. When she died, I was obviously somewhere else and only hurried back today. Since I wasn't here, how could I kill her?" Tang Fan looked at him coldly and replied, "If you have the guts to kill her, should also have the guts to admit to it. Don't you know that the sole of your right foot had already exposed you?" The statement made everyone look at Li Man's shoes. Even he himself could not help but look down at them. Lao Wang bent down, took off Li Man's right shoe and handed it to Tang Fan. Tang Fan turned the shoe over. "You are right, you did come back from out of town, only you didn't come back today. You must have come back a couple of days at least in order to create an alibi to avoid the suspicion that you kill your wife yourself, but these shoes betrayed you." Without waiting for Li Man to speak, he added, "You deliberately wiped your shoes clean for fear of leaving marks or footprints when you sneaked back home to kill her. Too bad that it was the wrong thing to do. Traveling for days should make one's soles extremely dirty, so why are yours clean? Don't tell me that after traveling endlessly for days with a new concubine in tow, instead of hurrying home, the first place you're looked for is somewhere to clean your shoes." Tang Fan sneered lightly and continued, "Moreover, right before you jumped out the window, you accidentally made a noise. You got worried that Ah Chun and Ah Xia will find you when they came over to check things out. So, you jumped out of the window in a hurry without realizing that the heel of your shoe rubbed hard on the wall of the window sill. I have already seen the mark and it is exactly the same as the abrasion on your shoe." He threw his shoe on the floor, sat back in his chair and pointed at Lady Zhang's coffin and exclaimed, "Say it. In front of your dead wife, explain why would you do such a thing. She had been married to you for decades and even if she couldn't have children, she had still been virtuous and done her duties to the utmost of her abilities. Not only did she manage the household for you, she didn't even restrict you from taking concubines and having children with them. She even treated your concubine's son as if he was her very own. Society placed many restrictions on women, but even so, there were very few that could achieve her level." Tang Fan's face darkened, his voice going harsh, "What is it that you are not satisfied with, to the point of killing your own wife? Are you still human?" After a long time, Li Man finally spoke, knowing that denial would be useless at this point. "Do you think I wanted to? When she married me, she was only 18, and I was 20. Our personalities were compatible and we have mutual respect. Other people were endlessly envious of our good fate. When I was 30, her maiden family met with hardship and needed a large sum of money. She had 3 siblings but none of them could be counted on. At that time, I was still studying hard for the imperial examination. I gritted my teeth and sold my family's properties and gave her the money. I myself had to give up on the imperial examination because of that. I used the remaining savings as capital, then switched to mercantile. Only then did our family finances gradually improve. At that point, we have been married for 10 years and still have no children. It was only after I repeatedly requested that Lady Zhang agreed for me to take a concubine, and that was how Li Lin came to be. Whenever I go out to do business, I frequently needed to entertain and socialize, but Lady Zhang was completely illiterate and there would be no use in her going with me. She seems to be a virtuous woman, but the 2 concubines she got for me were either lacking in looks and were illiterate just like her. Only my new concubine Lady Chen is knowledgeable. She is gentle and virtuous, and moreover, she could help me by socializing with wife of officials and fellow businessmen. I've had several huge deals recently and her contribution towards them all had been indispensable." Chapter End. The 14th year of Chenghua. Chapter 24. Unable to let it go. Once he mentioned Lady Chen, everyone looked at the pretty woman who had come with Li Man. Tang Fan had noticed that she had a shrewdness about her. When he heard what Li Man said, that she had helped him a lot, he knew then that this woman was not someone easy to deal with. When Li Man was revealed to be the killer, she had then intentionally maintained a low profile, as if she was trying to blend herself into the background. When she heard Li Man said her name, Lady Chen knelt daintily and used her sleeve to wipe her tears as she said, "Husband thinks too highly of this concubine. I am truly unworthy of receiving husband's generous favor. If you're no longer here, what use is there for this concubine to go on living alone?" She was a smooth talker and a good actress as well, but Tang Fan remained expressionless and did not even spare her a look. However, Li Man didn't seem to have heard her as his mind was fully immersed in his memories. After a pause, he continued, "I really didn't want to kill her. A long time ago, I asked Lady Zhang to divorce me, and I even offered to give her half of the family's wealth so that she would be taken care of for the rest of her life, but she refused. After some time, I asked her again, but she refused as well and told me not to forget our original vows. This went on for so many times. She left me with no other choice." His expression turned fierce as he said, "She knows nothing, nor could she be of help to me. There are many more pretty and capable women than her. I've already done my best for her when I have spent the family's wealth for hers back then. Since she couldn't bear me children, why did she bother with occupying the position of my primary wife? Of course, I couldn't take it anymore. It wasn't that I owed her, it was she that owed me. She owed me." Silence stretched out in the hall. Everyone stared at him in astonishment, especially those from the Li family. Although Li Man seldom returned home, he and his wife, Lady Zhang, had always been very respectful towards each other. The couple were also not harsh to those working for them. The Li family members, from top to bottom, were all respectful to one another. None of them could have known that underneath Li Man's peaceful and benevolent exterior, such a beast was lurking. Li Lin, the young master of the Li family, was completely stunned. He stared at his father and muttered, "Father, how could you do this?" Tang Fan said coldly, "It's not because she couldn't be of help to you. It's not even because she could not bear you children. It was because you have been constantly brooding over the 30 years old you of the past. You blamed her family for dragging you down and made you give up so much. Back when you were young and in love, you thought that such investment was acceptable. But as you got older and as you immersed yourself in the mercantile business, you've realized that people do not respect farmers and merchant in general. It was the educated people who are considered noble. You started to regret your choice back then. That regretful feelings piles up day after day until it became a heart demon in your mind. Whenever something or someone trigger it up, that heart demon would come out, wanting to cause harm. All of the so-called reasons you've stated are nothing more than you trying to make excuses for the crime you committed. You did indeed spend a great amount of wealth for her in your younger years, but since then, she had managed your household for you and helped you take care of your son. Even if she did owe you, she had long paid it all back. You wanted to divorce her? What's so wrong about her refusal? Did she commit any of the 7 grounds for annulment? Do you believe that a divorced woman wouldn't be met with judgmental stares? As for paying her off with enough money for the rest of her life, do you think there would be enough amount of money that could measure her deep and decade-long affection for you?" Li Man sneered and retorted, "You don't understand, you just don't. My ancestor had been a third-rank assistant minister. How impressive is that? Because I gave up on the imperial examinations and became a merchant, I was treated with disdain. The Li family as it is today was only able to earn its standing because of my hard work. My blood and sweat. She didn't do anything other than peacefully enjoy the wealth at home. How can I accept? I don't accept it. If I had been able to participate in the imperial exams back then, I would probably have a long jade belt wrapped around my middle by now, and you lowly officials would have to bend your backs in my presence." No matter how good-mannered Master Tang was, even he couldn't help but roll his eyes when he heard this and said, "You think too much of yourself. If I recall correctly, you said that you were already 30 years old when your wife's family met with misfortune. Your instructions started at age 6, meaning you have a full 24 years to study and take up the imperial examination, yet you didn't even pass as a fine scholar. Even if you were given another 24 years, you still wouldn't be able to pass. Wake up. You think with your behavior you could become a high official? Even if for some miraculous reason you did end up becoming an official, you will never be a remarkable one. Li Man laughed coldly and said, I naturally know how you court officials put on a high and mighty facade and at the same time takes bribe money, and yet, you have the gall to show such a righteous appearance. What hypocrite! How disgusting! Tang Fan was in no hurry to take him away and lock him up as he continued, you came back in advance with the intent to kill your wife and didn't want anyone to know about it, so you ought to have someone on the inside that was collaborating with you to divert the attentions of the servants. If you come in through the front entrance, you would have to pass through the outer and inner courtyards, which would be difficult if you don't want to be seen. But if you come in through the back door, it will save you a lot of trouble since it is connected to the garden, and in front of that garden is Lady Zhang's room. Your accomplice only needed to help you kept watched and prevent people from wandering at the back of the garden by such reason as not to disturb the madam's rest. Who is your accomplice? Li Man didn't answer, but Tang Fan didn't need to wait for him to answer. His gaze swept over the dazed crowd of the Li family members and finally landed on someone. Asya. Asya raised her head in alarm. Tang Fan stared at her profoundly. Madam Li have treated you so well and have always been benevolent over you. How could you do this to her? Asya shook her head over and over as she said, No, I didn't. You still dare to deny it? His voice was harsh. You had been unwell that night. Ah Chun already volunteered to do the night watch on your behalf, but you stubbornly refused, insisting on staying with her despite of your illness. That's the first thing. The second thing was when you heard the noise inside the madam's inner room, you and Ah Chun went to check it out. Ah Chun didn't go into the inner room. It was just you. However, after go you in, you didn't actually step inside to investigate but merely glance at the door to prevent Ah Chun from coming in, because at that point, Madam Li was already dead and you were afraid that Ah Chun will discover something strange if she goes in. Doesn't that show that you plainly have an ulterior motive? Explain. Even Li Man couldn't refute in the face of solid evidence, let alone a woman like Asya, who hadn't much experience of the outside world. As soon as Tang Fan shouted explain, she immediately crumbled, I didn't. I didn't. I was threatened by the master. I was forced to do it. I didn't kill my mistress. What did he threaten you with? Asya covered her face and sobbed, I wasn't feeling well that day and went to visit the doctor, but I came across the master and he tricked me into going somewhere, and then, he laid with me, and told me that I was now his woman. If I did not obey him, he would tell the madam that I had seduced him and that he will sell my slave contract. He wanted me to kill her, but I refused. So, he asked me to help him by being on the lookout and keeping the other servants away, saying that he would do it himself. I really didn't want to do it. Why didn't you agree with the madam and take me with you? If I had left with you then, this wouldn't have happened. Normally, the corners of Tang Fan's mouth were always slightly raised in a warm smile, making the onlookers feel like they had been washed over by a spring breeze. However, whenever he wore a blank expression, he had a certain presence that people did not dare to look at. People like to find excuses for their mistakes. Don't you know how your mistress treats you? You helped Li Man to commit murder just because he sullied your innocence, and yet, you still dare to claim that you have a clear conscience in front of your mistress. Asya cried bitterly, Madam, forgive me, forgive me. Not paying her any more attention, he turned to the deputy and the people from Wanping County and said, this case should have been handled by Wanping County, but I end up meddling with it. I hope that Deputy Qian won't resent me for doing so. The Wanping County deputy replied, No, not at all. Master Tang have handled the case magnificently. This humble official is in awe. Then can I trouble you to take over from here? That is our duty, sir. Tang Fan then turned to his men, Lao Wang, hand over Li Man and Xia to the county deputy. Lao Wang agreed, and escorted Xia to the bailiff brought by the county deputy. Deputy Qian, Tang Fan said, even though Xia was a suspect for being an accomplice, she actually didn't take part in the murder and has already confessed to the crime. In view of this, all interrogations should be in accordance to national law, and I ask to avoid using any sort of torture. The society's view at this time were especially severe on women. Once a woman is thrown into a prison, everyone would believe that she had lost her purity. The jailing bailiffs might take this opportunity to harass and molest women prisoners more. In light of this, the Ming Dynasty law took a special consideration towards women that sometimes, interrogation was allowed to be conducted at their homes. However, Xia was coerced into being an accomplice to a murder and the evidence against her was undeniable. It is not possible for her to escape imprisonment. Tang Fan didn't wish for her to suffer beyond the sanction of national law, that's why he specifically pointed this out. His meticulousness could also be seen from this. Xia had stopped crying and stared at him blankly, grief was written all over her features. It was unclear exactly what she was thinking. Maybe she was lamenting her bitter fate, that it was not in her fortune to be by Tang Fan's side. Perhaps she regretted that she had allowed Li Man to threaten her into doing something so awful. However, if she had known this would happen beforehand, how could it ever come to be? Tang Fan turned his head to the Li family steward and said, Lao Li, come here. Master Tang. Lao Li looked so miserable. He was utterly loyal to the Li family. How could he have known that his master would murder his madam? That sudden blow had truly been great that his waist was bent with shame. Tang Fan took out a pile of white paper from his lapels and said, there's bank notes here of about 2,000 taels. Just now, your previous master has given me this pile, wanting me to not investigate this matter further. Take this money and look after your young master from now on. Lao Li accepted them as he shed tears. Thank you, Master Tang. This lowly one will never forget the great kindness you've shown towards our Li family for the rest of my life. Li Man said indifferently, you've taken my money to do favor for the Li family, such calculations, Master Tang. Tang Fan beamed and said, are you mad that your bribe didn't work? You should stop fretting. Murderers get the death penalty, so the Li family's wealth are no longer yours. It's all your son's now. Li Man's face turned red with anger and two resentful eyes almost burned holes in Tang Fan's body as he said in a grim voice, I won't die. Don't celebrate too soon. Tang Fan told the Wanping County deputy, a suspect with such nasty attitude is snarling at a court official. Doesn't seem too appropriate, yes. The Wanping County deputy seemed to have woken up from his daze. He promptly waved his hand that made others take Li Man and Xia to be escorted back. As Tang Fan and the others were about to leave, Lao Li called out to him, Master Tang, our family has met a great misfortune. Now that the master had become like this and the madam has passed away, only the young master remained. The two concubines have never managed matters before, either. We are a group of dragons with no head. If this lowly one could be so impudent as to ask if you could help us obtain a charter of bylaws. Tang Fan looked at Li Lin, who was dumbfounded, and said, if there's any reliable distant relatives in your master's or the madam's family, you can request them to lend a hand in the management of the household. Your young lord is currently a half-grown man and would have to take care of the family from now on. You can discuss the rest of the family matters with him. Lao Li nodded in succession. Master Tang is right. As they left the Li residence, Tang Fan called out to the Wanping County deputy with a humorless smile, this case wasn't that complicated, and with Deputy Qian's intelligence, you would have been able to solve this yourself. Why did you feel the need to call me over? Was there some other reason? The Wanping County deputy smiled awkwardly and said apologetically, surely Master Tang is joking. If it wasn't for you revealing one insight after another, this humble official wouldn't have learned so much revelations. I would have likely ended up accusing the wrong person. It was a fact that Li Man had bribed Tang Fan so obviously, he had also bribed the Wanping County deputy and registrar. It was just that they had wanted to accept it, but since it was Tang Fan who had raised this case, they feared that he would expose them. Due to that, they invited him over to see whether he would accept the bribe himself. If he did and decided to stop investigating the case, then they could accept the bribe, too, following his lead. Tang Fan clearly understood this, but he didn't expose them. Water that was too clear have no fish, and people who are too critical have no follower. Exposing Deputy Jian motives would only make him mad and had no other use aside from that. Most people wouldn't suddenly repent just because they were taught a lesson in a hard way. They were more liable to be resentful because of that. Being an upright official wasn't as challenging as an official who was trying to accomplish things. Therefore, he simply stopped at that, letting them be wary on their own. The next morning, Xueling sent someone to tell Tang Fan that he hadn't heard anything from the West Depot commander Eunuch Wang's side. In other words, the Jinyiwei couldn't figure out why Wang Zhi wanted to invite Pan Bin to dinner. He passed the news to Pan Bin, who, upon hearing the news, became anxious. Tang Fan reassured him and said, "Brother, there's no need to worry. The result of the case at the Marquis of Wuhan estate had indirectly benefited Wang Zhi, and the Shuntian prefecture has no intention of planting willows. Maybe he just wants to express his gratitude." "Do you really think that's a possibility?" Pan Bin asked. Wang Zhi didn't even bother about any of the cabinet ministers. Why would he need to be cordial with a lowly figure like me? How about this? Come with me to the dinner tomorrow and give me warning if I'm about to commit a blunder. That cannot not be good. His invitation was for you alone. Wouldn't me showing up without invitation make him unhappy? Pan Bin waved his hand and said, "It should be fine. I'm not going to take you with me as the Shuntian prefecture prefect, but as my junior disciple brother, and that's that." Chapter end.